Welcome, everybody. Upcoming on our Real Estate Expert Summit is a great treat that we have, and that is we have some of the real experts in particularly in apartment investing and syndication. We have Jillian Sidoti, who is her firm and her are a legend in the syndication legal practice. And we have Charles Dobens, who is a specialist. Their law firm focuses entirely on multifamily acquisitions. So Jillian and Charles, welcome. And I'm going to let you talk and share with people what they're going to see on the summit when they come and see you.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Chuck.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us, Chuck. It is an honor to be here, really, truly. And I hope everybody will get something out of this presentation today. Charlie and I are going to do two different presentations that go together. And I'm going to let Charlie start because it's kind of like if you don't have a deal, what's the point of getting money? But then again, if you don't get a deal, I mean, if you do get a deal, then what are you going to do about getting the money? So you need both of these things, but I'm going to let Charlie start. And Charlie, take it away.
Okay, so what I want to talk about is how to find deals where no one else is looking. And this is the important part. I'm going to share my screen. Let me just come on here. This is going to be it. I'm going to turn on my PowerPoint. And then I'll just ask can you all see that? Okay, so Jillian and I have come together from our law practices and created what our new entity is called the Multifamily War Room. And this is where we really take a very holistic approach towards helping new investors build their multifamily business. So I take it from the transactional side of the deal. Jillian takes it from the transactional side of how to find money. You put the two together, which is really what every multifamily investing business needs is the deals and the money to make the deals happen. And that's why we've come together. And I got to tell you, folks, we have such a blast. Our objective is to get all of our clients across the finish line on their deals. We have a lot of fun doing it. We have two programs that you're going to hear about at the end of the discussion. But if you're looking to get more information from us, that's how you do it. So let me get started with this particular discussion on how to find deals where no one else is looking. And this is really the first step to getting started in this business. Now I'm going to ask Chuck a very serious question, Chuck, and I want you to think about it. What is the oldest profession in the world? And it's not what you think, Chuck. And this is a children's show.
I was going to say money lending, but
No, that's okay. I like that one, but I think you know what the answer is. It's sales and marketing, right? Because you were thinking something else, and I got to just tell you, Chuck, that she had to sell something before she could get any coin. So the oldest profession is sales and marketing. Folks, every business is all about sales and marketing. If you think you're coming into the multifamily real estate business and you're just going to become this great big titan of industry, you must understand that nothing happens until a sale is made. And in this business, if you're brand new to this business, your very first sale is to get an accepted offer. Until that happens, nothing else is going to occur. You've got to find the deals that you make the offer on, and then you've got to draft the offer in such a way that the seller is going to say yes. So there are two steps in the process, but the first one, and the one that we're going to be talking about today, is how to find deals where no one else is looking. There's only one part of this business that you have total control over. Everything else is going to be decided by someone else. And that is the making of offers. If you're not making offers, nothing else is going to happen. If you're not making offers, this is just you and me talking. And if you're not making offers, this is nothing more than a very expensive hobby. So you've got to make offers. The seller doesn't have to accept them. The bank doesn't have to lend you the money. You don't have any control over that. The only thing that you have control over is the making of offers. And just like any other sales and marketing business, it's all about the numbers. The more you make offers, the more you're going to have a chance of getting your deal accepted. This is my saying that all of my clients hear me say all the time, and that is, if you're not making offers, this is nothing more than a very expensive hobby. And this is my hobby. This is me right after I soloed for the first time. I just saw this plane the other day, and this is my new plane. And this is, so believe me, folks, I don't make a dime flying. It costs me thousands every year just to fly. It's my hobby. But buying apartments is my job. It's my profession, along with the practice of law and the consulting to my clients. That's where I make my money so I can have my hobbies. Don't make real estate a hobby. It's a great way to live. Okay, first thing we're going to do when we start thinking about where to find deals where no one else is looking is you've got to choose your market. And, I listen to so many gurus out there talk about, oh, what should I do? And you should go to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You should go to some market that's 1,000 miles away because somebody's got properties to sell there. Folks, all of my heroes in the real estate business made their money in their own backyard. You do not have to go far afield to find deals. You can find them in your own backyard. You just have to know where to look. So ask yourself the question, where do you want to be in 5 years? Picture yourself doing what you love to do 5 years from now. Where are you? Are you in your hometown where you are right now? Are you down in Kiowa, South Carolina with me? Or are you like out in the middle of Phoenix, Arizona, because you started to build a portfolio there? At this stage of your development, you can ask this question and the world is your oyster. Come up with the vision of your life. Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? And that's going to help determine where you're going to choose your market. Is it in your own backyard? Is it 1,000 miles away? Entirely up to you. Now, the other thing that you have to think about when you're looking at your marketplace is what size market are we going after? Are we going to look for a primary market? Are we going to look for a secondary market? We're going to look for a tertiary market. Now, let me explain to you how this should go into your thinking. Obviously, the primary market, that's going to be the most expensive. Primary markets are Boston, New York City, Washington, D.C., Miami. The way I describe the difference between a primary, a secondary, and tertiary market is using my piloting skills. I describe a primary market as that type of market that has an international airport. Now, this rule doesn't always apply to everything. It has an international airport. A secondary market is a market that has a regional airport. And a tertiary market is a market that doesn't have a towered field. The pilots are just flying around a circle talking to each other. So in my area of Boston, Logan would be the international airport. And Boston is a primary market. You go to Manchester, New Hampshire, Worcester, Mass, Providence, Rhode Island, they have regional airports, and those are more secondary markets. And then where I learned how to fly in Plymouth, Massachusetts, there's no tower. We just fly around talking to each other. Plymouth, Mass would be considered a tertiary market. Now, of course, people are going to come to me and say, hey, Toledo has an international airport. Yeah, okay, fine. There are exceptions to every rule except for one. And occasionally, Toledo will get a flight in from Canada, thereby making it an international airport. But for rules of thumb, let's just think about it that way when you think about choosing your market. Now, here's the thing you've got to think about as a multifamily investor. It's how do investment dollars flow in and how do investment dollars flow out? If it's a primary market, investment dollars flow in very easily and flow out very easily. If you start looking at a Plymouth, Massachusetts, a tertiary market, investment dollars are less inclined to move into a tertiary market and less inclined or harder to get it out once you go to sell the property. So you've got to keep those things in mind, especially if you're thinking about using other people's money. You've got to ask them, hey, are you okay investing in a secondary or tertiary market for your multifamily deal? And that's what you want to keep in mind as you start looking at markets. Another type of market doesn't necessarily have to be a geographical one. It can be a product type of market. For instance, student housing. Now, I've had many of my clients get into student housing. They've done incredibly well with it. But I got to tell you right now, folks, this is why you have to think about these things as you're looking at this business. Right now, I wouldn't want to be in student housing. I know I'm saying that, and some of my students are cringing as I say it, but I'll be honest with you. with COVID going on, the banks are very less inclined to lend to a student housing deal because nobody knows what's going to happen next year. Nobody knows what's going to happen 6 months from now. So that's why student housing is now a very risky venture. Before, it was phenomenal. It was like, it never went down. You couldn't lose on a student housing deal. But now you got to be very, very careful of these types of keeping these types of issues in mind. Assisted living center, man, I had a particular podcast that I did with a gentleman who is focusing strictly on assisted living centers. And on Jillian and my virtual seminar that we did a month or so ago, we had an expert, an economist in talking about the multifamily market. And he talked about assisted living centers as the next big thing. And actually in a frame or in a form that you probably have never even heard of before. So these are the things, if this interests you, start educating yourself on all these types of nuances. Value add opportunities. I have a bumper sticker on my car that I jokingly say, it says, life is too short to own C-class property. And I also have a bumper sticker that says fight violence, but nobody understands that one. So I don't own C-class property. I don't own a tool belt. I make all my money, in a great income on my law practice. I don't want to spend time going in with a tool belt into a multifamily property and having to change out the kitchen. That's not what I do. I don't want to do this. I buy performing assets. But I have many students that buy value add opportunities where they go in there, they rehab the units and they drive the NOI. That's what we call it, driving the NOI. And they do unbelievably well. And as a matter of fact, one of them, nicest guy in the world, always pushes back on me whenever I tell him about my bumper sticker. He says, Charlie, I made millions on C-class property. Why do you keep telling people don't buy C-class? I said, I don't tell them not to buy it. I just tell them I've got a bumper sticker that says I'm not going to buy it. So keep that in mind when you're looking at markets. There are so many things you can think about, not just geographically, but also the type of property that you're looking to get involved in. Repositioning opportunities. This is where we take a C-class property to another letter grade, like to a B or an A. And this is entirely up to the market where you are. You hear people talking about this a lot. And here's the problem that people have. And I want to make sure that everybody understands this. When you decide that you're going to move into a particular market, you've got to know what in that particular geographical area, what's a C-class area, what's a B-class area, what's an A-class area. If you decide, hey, I'm going to Fort Worth, Texas, because I've heard it's great down there, but you've never been there, and you call a broker and say to the broker, hey, I'm looking for repositioning opportunities. I'd like to buy a C-class property in a B area. And they know you've never been there before. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to hold the phone over there. They're going to say, hey, Joe, I got another live one, just came out of someone's boot camp. And you say, hey, yeah, I got one. I got just what you're looking for. And he takes you down there to a C-class property in a D area, but it looks good to you because you've never been there before. So if you're thinking about doing repositioning opportunities, if that's the market you want to get into, you better know your market cold. I just did a podcast with actually one of Jillian's clients where he does C-class property in A markets in LA, 4 to 15 unit properties. Guy is killing it, but he knows his market. And that's what you have to do as well. Okay, now, how do you know if your market is strong for multifamily? And this is something you got to think about before you make the shift. Hey, I really like this area. I'm moving there. Well, why? And this is what Jillian and I do with our students in our Chairman's Council program. We invest with them. If we like the deal, Jillian and I will invest in the deal with them. But they've got to be able to sell us on why that market is a good one. So you've got to start, when you finally decide where you want to be, make sure it's a strong market for multifamily. Let's take a look at verifying 2 aspects of your business. First off, we've got to think about customers So what we do is we use tools like census.gov, where what we do is we find the county that we want to do business in, and we make the determination, are people moving into this county? Are people moving out of this county? If they're moving in, where are they moving in from? Why are they moving there? And all of this data is at your fingertips through the internet. The other thing we want to look at is the product. So we always have to think about this as a business. And the first sale is to the owner selling our offer, but ultimately we won't make no money exchanges hands until a lease is signed, and leases get signed as long as we have more and more customers coming into our property or our product. So we first look to see where the customer's going, and then we look to make sure that there's enough product in that marketplace for us to be able to build a business. You don't want to be the only show in town. Next thing we look at is, okay, how many multifamily properties exist in this marketplace? The tool that we use is this great program. It's called Enodo, and the website is Enodo Inc. ENODOINC. Mark Rutskin founded this, and he did a phenomenal job. This is a lot of fun. We use it with our clients all the time to help determine exactly what's going on if they're choosing the right market. But let me show you what it does. First off, just so you know, I recommend that all of you use Enodo Inc. to do some really cool analysis. They have a rent roll assistant, they have operating statement assistant, and rent survey assistant. What you can do is you can actually take the PDF version of your rent roll and dump it into Enodo's assistant here, the rent roll survey, the rent survey. You just click and drag it right in, and it does a complete analysis on your rent roll, like what months do the most leases renew, what type of fluctuations you have in the rent. It's fantastic. It's just click and drag, and it's all free. Use Enodo to help you determine if that property that you're looking at is falling in the right area. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. In this particular case, I typed in the market. I put it right up here in this block. I hit enter, and let me see where did I do this? Bowling Green, Mint Hill. I love it when I cover up the name of this is obviously a picture, so somebody can look at this and know exactly what it is. I bet you Chuck Sutherland's looking at it. He goes, oh yeah, sure. And that Denver is not Denver, Colorado. Cherryville, Bowling Green. So it's got to be right down near Lake Norman, Concord. Okay, so yeah, of course there's a Concord in every city, in every state. But anyway, here's my point. When we type into this block here, exactly what's going on. Hold on, let me just do just because I don't want to. North Carolina, Huntsville, Hunters. Let's see, it's probably North Carolina. Okay, yeah. So Lake Norman is a town in North Carolina. It's probably Fayetteville, North Carolina. So these are multifamily opportunities. Each one of these gray dots represents a multifamily property for sale, and that's the beautiful thing about doing the sales and marketing on the multifamily business. Once you've identified your market, your world becomes a closed environment. One of these gray dots is going to say yes to you over the next 12 months. As soon as that one gray dot says yes, you're in business. So your job for the next 12 months is to focus on every single one of these gray dots. You don't care what the property looks like. You care about the owner. You want to build the relationship with the owner. You want to speak to the owner on a regular basis. You want to make sure that when the time comes to sell, they're going to come to you. In other words, you're doing the job of a broker, except you're the one that's focusing on your business. The broker's focusing on his business. He's focusing on 10 other people that are looking for the same thing you're looking for. That's why you've got to find these deals before anyone else does. And we use tools like this in order to make it happen. And here, actually, it was Greenville, South Carolina. I just typed this one in here. This is between 10 and 50 units, 42 units. Now, take a look at what Enodo can do for you. Now, they're obviously a relatively new company. They're building out their database, but take a look at this. This happens to be a property in Greenville, South Carolina. Now, when you get the offering memorandum from the broker, he's going to tell you that the rents on this property are $1,400 for a 2-bedroom. Okay? Sounds good? All right. But what he's not going to tell you is that a year ago, they were getting $1,700 a month. Okay. That's interesting. That's, if I come into this information, my whole thought process was value add. I'm going to drive the rents higher. You got to stop and ask yourself, why did we just lose $300 a month per unit over the last 12 months? What's going on in this marketplace? That's why data is so important to help you determine whether you're in the right place. Because remember, Jillian and I are going to be your toughest first investors, because we're going to ask you the tough questions. And if you can't answer those questions correctly, we're not going to invest with you. And we're going to look at things like this and say, hey, Chuck, it's a nice looking property. I think you did a good job with the negotiation of the deal, but did you know that the rents have dropped $300 a month over the last 12 months on this property? Hamana. And they, Chuck, that's not really the right answer. Come on, man, help us out here. So that's what we do when we analyze deals. We want to look at all the data. We want to look at the market information. We want to make sure we're doing the right stuff. This is a business, folks. This is the best business in the world to be in. It is absolutely so much fun. It's logical. It makes sense. There are 5 ways to make money in the multifamily business, but you've got to know what you're looking for. It's crucial. Here's another tool that Anodo does. They can actually do an underwriting comparison. As you look up here, overview of the property, amenities, unit types, comps, operating data. Let me see. Take a look at these amenities. If we were to allow pets on our leases in that marketplace, we could increase our rent by $16.37. This is what the Anodo tool does for you. It gives you this type of data. Remember, what we're trying to do here with all of our properties is to drive the NOI. If we know that we can increase the rents by $16 per month on 50% of the units, I don't know how many people would have pets down there, we will be able to determine we can make this property more valuable just by driving the NOI with these types of amenities. Then you take a look at unit types. In this particular case, it shows the square footage, the number of units, and this is all comes from a lot of times it comes right from that rent roll assist tool that you can get for free when you log into Anodo. The other thing that Anodo does, and this is crucial, because you'll get your offering memorandum package from the brokers, and they will have chosen the rent comps, and they will have chosen the sale comps. And are they on your side or are they on the seller's side? So in other words, the information they give you may tell a great story for the seller, but it doesn't necessarily tell the real story for you. But here on Anodo, their sales comps tool will find you a property objectively and tell you exactly what's going on with it. And then finally, the operating statement. You can click and drag a trailing 12 financial statement into their tool, their assistant, and it will put it right up here on the screen here for you, and then compare it to the market benchmarks. So is the guy's expense ratio in line or is he way off? Are the rents in line or are they way off? So that's the nice thing about this Anodo tool. This is just one of the tools we use. We use cash flow analyzer software to determine what the offer price should be, but this tells us how we're doing in comparison to the market. So remember, the topic of my conversation was how to find deals where no one else is looking. I haven't even got to that part yet. All I've talked about up to this point is determining your market. Now that we've found your market, now we're going to find the product. Here we go. First place to look, LoopNet. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Charlie, LoopNet? Yeah, because Charlie, I've heard you speak before, and you always say that LoopNet is where deals go to die. And yeah, I say LoopNet is where deals go to die. But here's the thing. There are ways that we actually use LoopNet so that we can find those deals where no one else is looking. We don't go looking for properties on LoopNet. We go looking for the brokers that are selling the properties. Now, what we do in this particular case is we find, there are 2 ways to find the brokers on LoopNet. There's the shotgun approach, And then there's the rifle approach. The shotgun approach is you find, there's actually a tool, a tab right there and on LoopNet. It says find a commercial real estate broker. You put in the market that you're looking for. You put in multifamily property, because that's all I deal in. I don't deal in the retail or the commercial, the office space. I deal in multifamily, residential. You put that information in and you hit search. And all of a sudden, 500 names pop up of brokers doing business or claiming they're doing business in the Charleston, North Charleston marketplace. Okay. Now, there are a couple of ways to approach these people. What Jillian and I teach is we have a customer relationship management tool. We use HubSpot. It's free. You start building out your customer database in HubSpot CRM. You have 3 different types of customers. You have brokers, sellers, and you have investors. Those are the 3 customers that we are focusing on. Right now with the brokers, once we've identified these 500 brokers and who they are, we start putting these people into our database. And we also reach out to them to find out what deals they're working on. Like for instance, take Kristen Krause, for example. She specializes in retail, multifamily investments, and restaurant properties. We're gonna send her a message. We've logged into LoopNet. They already have our contact information. Here's Kristen Krause. We type in, if we're logged in, our information will pop up immediately. You type in a little message to Kristen. Hi, I'm looking for multifamily deals in the Charleston, South Carolina area. Click contact broker. And for those of you, let me see if I can see it. Now I'm gonna go back 1 slide. Once you type it into this message, you highlight the whole thing, Control C, copied it. You hit enter to contact broker, then you move on to the next one. Control V, paste the same information. You can do about 20 of them a day before LoopNet shuts you down for spamming their brokers, because you're spamming their brokers, and you just wait a couple days and you can turn it back on and do it all over again. This is a great tool for a VA. Now here's the thing. Remember I said this was a shotgun approach. You come up with about 500 brokers on this list. Do you think all 500 brokers are actually doing deals? Do you think they're making money, making a living? Not really. But you're getting your name out there in front of as many of them as possible. That's a shotgun approach. Let me show you the rifle approach, okay? Now, instead of just searching for brokers, now we're going to search for properties. Any property for sale in South Carolina. I don't care whether it's office, retail, mobile home parks, whatever. We are going to look for any property for sale in South Carolina. Once we find it, we click on it and take, for instance, there's a 24 unit in Charleston. And then what we do is we take this, we contact Darcy Patron, the listing broker. Are we interested in this property? Well, maybe we are. Maybe it's not a bad property. Maybe it's too small. Maybe it's not what we're looking for, but it doesn't matter. We're more interested in Darcy Patron because Darcy is doing deals. She's getting listings. We want to speak to her. She's making a living on this business. She's making about $18,000 on this. Actually, more than that, wouldn't it be? 330, yeah, more than that. She'd be doing very well. Okay, so she makes a nice living selling these multifamily properties. We want to speak to Darcy. Hey, Darcy, yeah, I looked at that property and not really what I'm looking for, but what else are you working on, Darcy? You seem to be, getting out there, doing well. That's how you want to do it. Another way that we do it is we use over here under the for sale tab, instead of putting in where the property is located, in this particular case, still shows South Carolina, but if you take that out, put in a keyword like seller financing, like bank owned, like price reduced, stuff like that. And that'll show you, and if I can come find it right here, once you put that in there, in this particular case, I think we had 85 properties came out where it said seller financing. Now, well, I teach my students, if you see seller financing, that's really a red flag. You want to find out why it's being offered for seller financing. But regardless, you see this is another way to identify potential properties for you. That's how I want you to think. Always be thinking ahead of the marketplace for doing things. Take a look at this particular property in Chattanooga, Tennessee. One of my students was going after this. It says down here in the seller notes, seller is willing to do owner financing with 20% down, okay? Now remember, like I said, and when my student brought this deal to me, my first thought was, why? If I got to put 20% down, why don't I just go to a bank? What's wrong with this property that we can't do bank financing? That's my first, maybe nothing, but I've done this enough times to know there's usually something going on there. So that's why, this is why when you see things like this, you always ask the question. And I'll just tell you something, folks. When you do this, one of the times I was scrolling through all the seller financing leads that popped up, and one of them actually said, seller financing is not an option, so don't even ask. Oh, okay, that's why the thing popped up. That's why we understood that. Let's see here. Okay, all right. So now, let's move on to another place we go looking for multifamily deals. It's called CIMLS, Commercial Industrial Multi-Listing Service. It's very similar to LoopNet. It's just another source. What I have found in speaking all around the country is that certain parts of the country, a place like LoopNet is where every broker in that marketplace puts their wares. And then there are other parts of the country where nobody uses LoopNet. They all use a different source like CIMLS. Depending upon the market that you're in, you've got to know exactly where your marketplace, where all the brokers in your marketplace are putting their wares. That's where you want to be. So make sure you keep your eye on commercial real estate, CIMLS. Use it exactly the same way I just described LoopNet, all right? Make sure you do that. As you can see here, they have all the same things. You put in the type of property, you put in the the state that you're in. Look down here. I've already used seller financing in this particular case as a keyword. It works exactly like LoopNet. But the thing is, you'll find a whole host of different properties in here that don't appear on LoopNet. In this particular case, check out this. Seller financing popped up, is available to qualified buyers, and it's an assumable Freddie Mac loan. Okay, that's another red flag. I don't think Freddie Mac is going to allow seller financing. They don't allow second mortgages behind their loans, so there's something wrong with this offer too. There's all, I mean, but remember, folks, our job is to solve problems. Our job is to solve the problem of the seller. Every seller's got a problem. It's our job is to figure out what it is and come up with a solution that works for everybody. All right. This guy's got some type of problem. There's a lot of stuff going on wrong about this particular deal. But anyway, another place you're going to be looking for deals is what I call retail sites. And, some retail sites are great. Others are just where, where you go. Like, for instance, Marcus and Millichap. MarcusMillichap.com is probably the biggest commercial real estate brokerage house in the country. They do the majority of the multifamilies. They do retail. We are investors. We don't buy retail. We look for deals. But folks, here's the truth. Whenever I sell my properties, who do you think I turn to sell them? Marcus and Millichap, because they get me the highest price. All right? Doesn't mean I want to buy from them. But let them sell my property because I get the top dollar, which makes you wonder. You probably got a lot of California investors chasing down these Marcus and Millichap investors. Don't use that one against me. But anyway, here's the thing about Marcus and Millichap. Great stuff. They have phenomenal research. You should make sure you go to their research tab and download all the information about your particular marketplace. They also do an annual webcast with a vice president of theirs and their chief economist. And it's just the two of them on this webcast for about an hour and a half. Folks, if you want to sound like a genius about multifamily in front of your investors, listen to that webcast before you go have lunch with your investors. You will sound so knowledgeable. They do such a fantastic job with their research. And I'll tell you, when the market crashed back in 2008, 2009, everybody couldn't wait to get on this webcast to hear what the economist was going to say with Marcus Millichap. And I got to tell you, it was a great webcast because the guy told it like it was. He couldn't BS anybody. We all knew what was going on, and he just laid out exactly what was happening. It was one of the best webcasts ever. But Marcus and Millichap is one place. It's a retail site. CBRE is another site that is a retail site, high ticket. Get to know the brokers. Maybe you'll find a deal before it hits the marketplace. CBRE is another place for great research, and especially about your marketplace. They have a twice a year market cap survey report that comes out, and it is fantastic. If you want to know what the cap rate is in your marketplace for different types of properties, check CBRE at first. Here's another website that you can use to track down cap rates in particular marketplaces. It's apartmentmarketvaluation.com. Apartmentmarketvaluation.com. If that's wrong, email me. I'm doing it by memory. If that's wrong, just send me an email and I'll get you the right number. CBRE is another retail site, you know, but look down here. I've listed this realert.com, and that lists all the top brokerage houses. Start tracking them down, put them, they all have alerts that you can sign up for, get on their alert system. Remember, you've got to get as many looks at properties as they come in. I'm not saying that going to the retail sites is going to be your best option, but make sure you are using it, okay? Because listen, we're not going to say no to anything right now. Now, another place, I'm going to take a little swig. That's water, just water. It's not moonshine like some other people always accuse me of. Government agencies, folks. The U.S. government is one of the biggest purveyors of multifamily property and loans. And if you're looking to find deals, you can get some great information from these government websites. HUD.gov. What you want to do is do a search for multifamily data sets. And this is where you'll be able to download information. Even in an Excel format, you'll be able to sort it any way you want. Multifamily information about loans. I'm going to admit, Jillian, multifamily information about loans, about how big properties are, what the loan amount was, when the note's coming due, who owns it. Great, incredible information. Like for instance, here's contract renewal information for all contracts done in Microsoft Excel. All this information about multifamily, all free. Let me show you what it looks like. I'm going to show you one in just a moment. But look at, they also have a weekly listing of multifamily properties. You can get on their email alerts for HUD.gov. Not always loaded with stuff, but you want to make sure you set yourself up to get these email alerts all the time. This is a perfect example. I had, this is in Providence, Rhode Island. This is a foreclosure sale on a 74-unit property. Now, let me just highlight a couple of things on here, just so you get the gist. This is an all cash as is sale. HUD is not offering financing with this sale. Well, yeah, of course, because they foreclosed on the last guy. And a couple of my clients were from Providence, and they went down there and took a look at these properties, and they came away saying like, yeah, there's a reason why these properties got foreclosed on. They were a disaster. But you got 74 units. You're a contractor. You own a tool belt. You want to start doing these things, man. What a great opportunity. You just need to put it together and make the deal happen, all right? And you find it not on LoopNet, not with Marcus and Millichap. You find it in those places where no one else is looking. There's another thing on the HUD.gov website called List of Multifamily Foreclosures and HUD-Owned Properties, and it shows them historically. So you get to see all of the properties that have been foreclosed on by HUD. And this is what it looks like. Look at, you can sort by, they've got it by the state. It tells you the name of the property, who the owner was and where the owner came from, when the property closed, how much it closed for, and how many units. These are properties that HUD owned and they foreclosed on. So you want to go in there and just track it down. You knew who the owner was. Now go find out who the other owner is and find out when it all happened. All you're trying to do is get to that owner. You want to speak to that owner before anybody else does. That's where you're going to make your money. All right, another one happens to be the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We're still in the government realm here. They have so many opportunities here. This particular one is with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's called Rural Development. Rural Development was what I call Section 8 for farmers. It was a way that the government, the agricultural department could build multifamily properties out in the middle of nowhere, tertiary markets where investment dollars were not flowing into. And you could start, they would build multifamily properties out there. Now, folks, I'll tell you something. My father-in-law back in 1978, 79, he built a 72-unit apartment building out in the middle of nowhere because of rural development. And the reason why he did it was because they would give him accelerated depreciation. So instead of depreciating this asset over 17 years or whatever the number is, he could accelerate the depreciation of that property in 2 years. So back in 78, 79, when he was making a ton of money, he needed a tax shelter, and rural development came along. So all of a sudden, you've got all these properties out there that are available. Now, they don't always work out. My father-in-law's worked out very, very nicely. Sometimes they don't. And when they don't, they come back into the program, come back to rural development. They come out of the program and they're put on as market rate properties. So let me give you an example. Here it is, USDA rural development properties for sale. They've got, single family housing, multifamily housing. This is why it's great to have a VA. Have the VA come through and do these searches for you on a regular basis. This is how it works. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip here. So when the properties come up for sale, as you can see, Reynolds, Missouri, there's just one property right out there for sale through rural development. It's an 18-unit property out there. And listen, if that's your marketplace, if you're out there in that particular place, I don't know what it's near. It's probably out in the middle of nowhere, like I said. You can track down rural development. Now, here's the thing about rural development. If you're out looking for properties, you figured out your market, find the rural development office in your county and talk to the person that handles the properties. Because many times properties never make it to the website with RD, and these folks in their offices are working out some type of an arrangement, a workout program for either new owners or the existing owners that never even make it to any website. Contact the people in your marketplace that are doing this type of deal, and that you might be able to get those deals before anyone else does. Another one is the Section 8 office. If you're looking to do business in a particular marketplace and you think that you're going to be using Section 8 as a particular customer of yours, because that's what they are, then you want to make sure you know who they are. Are they a good office to do business with? Are they landlord friendly, tenant friendly, or right down the middle? How can you get vouchers? And they also publish lists of who the existing owners are, their phone numbers, how big the property is, exactly what you're looking for. Grab that list and start dialing for dollars to the owner and saying, hey, can I buy your property? Are you interested in selling? What better way? Section 8 gives you this information. It's out there for you. Don't sit around and do this. Get out there and find the deals yourself. I'll tell you something, folks. I've worked I've owned properties all over the country. And I know I've had some Section 8 offices that were atrocious to work with. They anti-landlord. And then I've had some Section 8 offices that were absolutely fantastic. They worked for both the owner and the tenants. And they just were absolutely great to work with. Love working with that particular office. Not mentioning any names, but I just want you to know it's very important for you as a business owner of this particular type of business to know how to work with those people in the office. And let me just tell you something, folks. If you find a property for sale that should have Section 8 tenants in it, because it looks like it's right up, it fits perfectly into the parameters for Section 8, and there are no Section 8 tenants in that resident, and that you ask the owner, why aren't there any Section 8? And he's, oh, I hate working with Section 8. They're terrible. They're lousy people. You know what? He might have got his hand slapped quite a bit beforehand. So you don't want to be the next owner of that property if it's got a bad reputation with the Section 8 office. Okay, another thing is public housing. Wherever you are, there's going to be a public housing office. Reach out to those people. Sometimes they have deals for sale. I found one in South Dakota. I might have it on my slide here. I'll check it out. All right, so another place that is HUD multifamily property for sales. Check out this website. Actually, I don't have the web address right here, but the name of the company is Dynaxis, DYNAXYS. And on the HUD, they control the HUD database for all the property sales. And this is what it looks like. And as you can see, you can sort by state right up here. It gives you the name of the property, gives you who owns it, gives you when it was purchased, how much it was purchased for, and how many units. All the information you need to get out there and start talking to the owners of the properties. Now, another place that we look at below the radar sources. I got to watch my time here. I think I'm coming up on my first hour, and they're going to flip it over my partner Jillian. But below the radar sources, oh, look at Chuck. Oh, look at Chuck Sutherland finally sits back down, because Chuck happens to be a member of the Society of Exchange Counselors. This is great, a great source. Let me just check my chat box. You're fine. Keep going. Okay, great. Thanks, Jillian. So Society of Exchange Counselors. This is, I love this source. I was approached by a CCIM when I was speaking out in Ohio, and he told me about this SEC property. Now, the thing about this is you can't just walk in and buy these properties. The only way that you can get access to these properties is you've got to be taken into this by an SE counselor like Chuck Sutherland. So it's kind of like the time that my father went to a car auction to pick out a car, and he went with the dealer because he wasn't allowed to be there. And when the car came up, he told the dealer, I want to buy that one. And so the dealer bought the car for him. That's kind of the same way it works here with the SE counselors. You have to be there with a CCIM, an SE counselor, and they're the ones that are going to structure the deal for you. But that's not a bad thing. That's actually a very good thing. But what I want you to do, you can still look to see what type of deals they have available. Come up here on the property member search, click on it, and then what's going to happen is a whole list of opportunities pop up. Now look at the name. Here's the CCIM's name, or the SE counselor's name, the title of the property, how much it's worth, the loan amount, the equity, the multifamily type. Folks, I don't care where the property is located. I want you to click on the detail and read the detail, because when you read the detail, you get some really interesting vibes, interesting stories about this particular property. Now take a look at this one. This one happened to be called the Chattanooga Apartments. This was on the list. And what I want you to see is you want to find that broker that is listing this property. Happens to be these guys here. I think it's Lee Harper is the one that's listing it. He's with a company called Hudson Commercial. These are the types of brokers that fly below the radar screen. They probably at one time worked for Marcus Millichap, and they got sick of the commission split. So they went out on their own, or smaller, lower named, lesser named brokerage firms, and these guys are killing it. These guys are the guys making a living doing this type of business. So you want to check on this, click on Hudson Commercial, look at their properties that they have for sale, and then you'll find some other deals that are not appearing on LoopNet. How do I know? Look at this. I typed in Chattanooga Apartments in LoopNet. It doesn't pop up. So if you're going to sit around and look on LoopNet all day long for deals, you're going to miss out on these types of opportunities. And that's why you've got to find deals where no one else is looking. And this is how we do it. Another one, I was going to speak down in Baltimore, and I thought, okay, I'm going to find some below the market radar brokers in Baltimore so I can show the people in Baltimore what they've got. I came across this real estate division of this auctioneer firm. Okay, they have a site called, just right down here, Attorneys and Trustees. Would you ever think to click on this? Well, neither did I. But look at, they've got multifamily property, a 48 unit, a 7 unit, a 308 unit, a 13 unit. These are not on LoopNet, but they're having auctions for them. And here they have it listed. I find one, I click on it, I go and I type in the address into LoopNet. Guess what? Nothing pops up. No properties pop up in LoopNet that are listed on Alex Cooper's website. If you're looking for deals on LoopNet, you're going to starve to death in this business. Don't do it. Another one, a person came up to me and said, Charlie, can you help me buy this property that I found on Discount Property Investor? And I said, Discount Property Investor? What's that? And she said, oh, it's this website that I look for every once in a while. So she had this property on there somewhere out in Illinois, and she wanted some help doing it. But I just thought, there are so many websites out there that nobody even knows about. I just keep finding them. Multifamily STL. This guy's name is Ted. Ted's heads up Multifamily St. Louis, and he probably used to work for Marcus and Millichap or CBRE, and now he's out on his own. And if you're looking for deals in St. Louis, you want to find Ted. If you're looking for deals in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, You want to find Oshkosh's answer to TED, because they're existing out there everywhere. And if you've identified your market, you've got to know everything about what's going on. But this is how you find things. And the thing is, TED's deals weren't on LoopNet. Now, I was speaking at some RIA club in Boston, and the guy walked up to me and said, "Hey, I own apartmentbuildings.com." I was like, "What?" He goes, I own apartmentbuildings.com. I said, "How'd you do that?" He goes, "Well, the website was available, so I bought it." I'm like, "Oh, wow. Good for you, man. That's brilliant." And now the guy makes a killing on the ads on this website. But they have listings on their website that nobody else has. So folks, this is the type of thing you've got to be digging down deep in. Let me just give you another one that I put on here. Let's say you decide that you're going to be looking for deals in Manchester, New Hampshire. What I want you to do is go to Google. Have you ever heard of it before? Good. We use it nowadays. Type in multifamily for sale, Manchester, New Hampshire. Hit enter. The first page is going to be filled with your LoopNets and your Crexes and your CBREs. Go to the 5th page. Dig down deep. That's where you're going to find those brokers that fly below the radar. That's where you're going to find some really interesting opportunities. So just put in your marketplace, multifamily for sale, your marketplace, 5th page. Okay. Now, one of the last things, and we're going to be turning it over here to Jillian, the most powerful tool for finding your first multifamily deal. Are you ready? Direct mail. Direct mail has worked every time it's been tried, and here's why. Take a look at this. This is Fayetteville, North Carolina. If you were so foolish, and you're not anymore because now you've been educated, if you were so foolish to put all of your eggs in the LoopNet basket in Fayetteville, North Carolina, where you decided, I'm going to be the next big multifamily owner in that area, that's what you got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 opportunities in Fayetteville. 9. You could be done looking for deals in Fayetteville before your morning coffee is even cold, because all they've got is 9. Now watch what happens when I overlay the Enodo map, the gray dot map, over Fayetteville. Here's what happens. Those are all your opportunities. Don't sit around and wait for a broker to bring them to you. Go out there and get them yourself. And the only way you do it is going to get the names of the owners, put them in your customer relationship manager, and start direct mailing them, calling them, whatever you have to do. But every day, talk to a gray dot. And within a year, you will own your first deal. I guarantee it. I hate it when I say Jillian's cringing right now because I use the word guarantee. Okay. So here's how it works. You go to the assessor's office in the town or county, city, town, or county, depending on how it works in your area, and you find out how you can buy their list of multifamily owners. Folks, there are fewer places that don't offer that list than there are that do. Every assessor's office has this ability right now. Take a look at Broward County. Broward County has turned it into a little cottage industry for somebody, because they even have a shopping cart. You just check the box. For $30, they're going to download you the list of all the multifamily owners. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you're looking at the town that you're looking in. Find out how to get that list. You're going to upload it into your customer relationship manager, and you're going to use that to send out direct mail and keep track of every time you did. All right. That's the beautiful thing about all the systems that we have working for us now, that we can automate this business and make things happen a lot faster than we ever could before. All right. So are you overwhelmed? Well, listen, you don't have to be. We have additional training Jillian and I do in our Chairman's Council program, which is actually closed until next March, but you can work with us in the Executive Council program, which Jillian and I are going to talk more about at the end. This is how we help our students every step of the way. Remember, folks, this is a marathon and not a sprint. And you can do this business. It's as long as you understand, you gotta work. That is it. So I am going, let me see. Yep, that was me. That's the end. I'm gonna stop my share. I'm gonna kick it back over here to Jillian. And Jillian, You can, here she is. You can take it from there. I hope that was helpful. Good, good. Yep. All right, Jillian, you're up. And you got to unmute yourself. Oh, you got to unmute yourself.
Here I am. Here I am.
Yes.
I'm going to share my screen here in a second. I just want to.
And so, Jillian, I just showed everybody how to find the deals. Now they got them under contract, and now they need you.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Okay. Take it away, kid.
I'm going to. All right. Hold on one second. I'm pulling this up to the top here. The first thing I'm going to go over, guys, is I'm going to talk about a little bit about how to raise capital, what the law looks like, things like that, because at the end of the day, we don't want to, break the law. That's really actually probably the most important thing, is that you don't want to break the law. And I know that sounds like, yeah, no kidding, Jillian, but the reality is that so many people do break the law all the time. And it can really be problematic for you it can ruin your business if you break the law. So one of the things I'm going to focus on here initially is just talking about the law. I'm looking at my slides right now, and the reason why I'm clicking around here is because I'm reading them, realizing some of them are difficult to read. So I'm going to probably have to play with them a little bit as we go along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on a couple of different things. The one thing I'm going to focus on is how to actually follow the law, what the law is. Then we're going to talk about what kind of returns to offer to your investors. And then the final thing we're going to talk about are 5 different ways to raise capital. Kind of to go along with Charlie's, where find deals where no one else is looking. We're going to talk about how to find money where no one else is looking. So I will start sharing my screen. Let me pull this up. Oh my goodness, I'm a mess. It is not coming up for me. Give me 1 second here. Share screen. Chuck, if you could give me capabilities, or somebody give me capabilities to share my screen, that would be great.
Hide. Let me see. I'm looking for.
Is it you?
No,
it's
I'm looking.
Your fault.
No. I'm looking for the ability to make you the participants. There's Jillian. Jillian is not. Oh yeah, because you stepped out of the room. So. Yeah, let me see. Stop video, rename. Okay, now I gotta, because you left in, oh, there you are. Now you're the co-host. You should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, try it now. Try it now.
All right, hold on. I will. Give me 1 second. All right, share screen. Oops, let me go backwards here. I'm gonna share my screen. There we go.
Good.
All right.
Good.
So first we're going to talk about the law. I'm going to go through this relatively fast because I know you guys are all at different levels of experience. And I don't want to, let some of our more experienced people fall asleep. At the same time, at the end of the day, you need to have a cursory understanding of this so that you don't break the law. You really should be working with a lawyer to help you put these types of documents that I'm going to be talking about a little bit here together, and helping you with following the rules. I do want to be abundantly clear about that. So what you want to really focus on in this presentation is what you should be doing in terms of going out and advertising. So to go backwards, the whole thing with securities law started back in the Great Depression days. And then thereafter, the president at the time, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, came out with a New Deal and what I refer to as the Mac Daddy of securities law of 1933. Good law today. That was then interpreted by the W.J. Howie case. And then fast forward, we saw what is called the crowdfunding rules come out in 2012. That was under the Jobs Act. And then the SEC started making rules around the Jobs Act that made crowdfunding completely legal. So let's real quick, talk about that W.J. Howie case. The W.J. Howie case was actually an orange farm, and the W.J. Howie company decided to subdivide the farm into 1 acre parcels. Subdivided the farm into 1 acre parcels and then sold those 1 acre parcels off to individual investors. But it was under the caveat that we're selling you this parcel of land, but we're going to continue farming the land for you, sell the oranges, and distribute the profits to you. So the people weren't buying the land to eat the oranges, farm the oranges themselves, build a house, anything like that. They were buying the land for the purposes of making money on oranges. Well, everything went horribly awry, and then all the investors lost their money. And they sued the W.J. Howie company on the basis of securities fraud. And of course, W.J. Howie company said, well, we didn't sell you a security, we sold you a piece of land. And so it didn't work out. There's not much you can do about it. We did not sell you a security. So what the SEC came up, excuse me, not the SEC, the Supreme Court came up with was a test, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. Before we do that, I want to talk about the different types of investors. Under the law, there's 3 different types of investors. And our lowest common denominator investor, as a matter of fact, a huge portion of the population, which are probably about, depending on what statistic you look at, about 90% of the population are considered unaccredited investors. These are people who do not have the same net worth requirements of accredited investors and don't really understand the risks associated in investing, may not have had a lot of experience with investing. And then we also have part of those investors are what are considered sophisticated investors. And those are people who might not have the income requirements of the net worth of accredited investors, but they have some kind of experience doing, real estate or investing in real estate or investing in general. And therefore they understand the risks associated with investing. And then number 1 is our highest and best investor, the accredited investor who make about $200,000 a year as an individual, they have to make at least $200,000 a year as an individual, $300,000 as a married couple, or have $1 million of net worth exclusive of their primary residence. And so I had mentioned that there was this test. So we're going to kind of tie this all together. It seems a little discombobulated now, but there's certain things I want you to focus on. So you know about your investors, you know the W.J. Howie company. And then what ended up happening was the Supreme Court decided to interpret that the W.J. Howie company had actually indeed sold securities based on this test you see here. Number 1, was there an investment of money? Yes, the investors who invested in the land invested actual money. They didn't invest their credit. Society of Exchange Counselors like to deal in things that are not cash, right? No, not money. Exchange property for things other than money. So in those situations, there's not necessarily a sale of money, a sale of security, because there's no investment of money. So there was an investment of money in a common enterprise, meaning there was more than one investor. There was more than one person who bought a parcel of land. Did they all expect profits? Yes, they did. They didn't expect, again, to farm the land or anything like that. They expected to have profits. And through the efforts of a promoter, the W.J. Howie company was the promoter. They didn't expect the investors to come on the land and help them farm or anything like that. It was all through the W.J. Howie company's efforts. So investment of money in a common enterprise with the expectation of profits through the efforts of a promoter. These were the things that made it so that the sale of a security had happened. And so if you see any of these things, that means that the sale of a security has happened. Not any of these things. It has to be all of these things. And if you're doing this, and you've always wondered, oh, am I breaking securities laws? If you hit all 4 of these posts, if you will, or these prongs of the test, then yes, you're selling a security. So please be aware that you have to follow the law. So there's 4 buckets, as I like to call them, under the law. There is, one of my little circles isn't there. But so there's the crowdfunding bucket, which we have over here. on our left-hand side. Then we have on the far right-hand side a mini IPO, right? So these are generally less used than these two in the middle here, 506B and 506C. And crowdfunding, I'll start with crowdfunding. Crowdfunding allows an issuer, somebody who's raising money, to raise up to $1,070,000 in a registered crowdfunding portal. And a registered crowdfunding portal is a portal that has been licensed, for lack of a better term, by FINRA to sell these types of securities and allow these issuers to sell on their platform. And the investors are limited in how much they can invest. They can only invest up to $10,000 or 10% of their net worth, whichever is less. And so this is a real, set of handcuffs, if you will, because you can't get really big investors into these deals. You can only take up to $10,000. Or again, 10% of the net worth of an investor, whichever is less. So the average investor on a crowdfunding platform, believe it or not, is like $250. And I want to be very clear, this is for regulation crowdfunding. There's a lot of crowdfunding platforms out there that don't operate under regulation CF, which is what this is under. They operate under other rules, such as here, 506C, or this over here, regulation A. But the ones that are under regulation CF and our registered crowdfunding portal, those have investors that invest an average of $250 per deal. Really not great for our real estate. So we kind of put that to the side and say, probably not. Then over here, I'll talk about mini IPO. A mini IPO allows you to raise up to $50 million from all three types of investors: accredited, unaccredited, and sophisticated. So what do you have to do to be able to do that is that you do need to get permission from the SEC. So you're going to take your offering circular and submit it to the SEC for approval. And also you have to get an audit of your books and records and have that submitted as part of the offering circular. You get approved by the SEC. What this allows you to do is go out and say, hey, who wants to invest with me? You can do advertising, you can do announcements on Facebook, you can send out newsletters, whatever it might be. Then in the middle here, we have 506B and 506C. And I believe I have a slide that illustrates this. Yes, it's my slide that we can't read very well. So hopefully, unfortunately, you can't read this so hot, but let me see if I can highlight it and we'll make it a little better. Let's see, will this highlight? No, that does not make it better. But let me just go through this real quick. This slide here says up at the top, Securities Act of 1933. So if we think of things as a decision tree, we can see the Securities Act of 1933 at the top. Under that are either exemptions or regulations that tell you how to register your security. And what this says here, which you can't read, it says Regulation D. So Regulation D allows you to have an exemption from registration. Under that is that Rule 506 I was talking about, and there are subsets under that of B and C. And under B, and if we go back here, under B, we see that we are allowed to raise as much money as we want from our number one investor, accredited investors, and our number two investor, sophisticated investors. We can take as many accredited investors as we want and up to 35 sophisticated investors. And then under C, we can take only accredited investors, raise as much money as we want. So what's the big difference between C and B? Well, it's advertising. So under Regulation D, Rule 506B, you are not allowed to advertise for investors. Advertising for investors is allowed only under certain rules. So here we have 506C, which is only accredited investors. Regulation A, which allows all investors, except that you have to get approval from the SEC, and it's a process. And then Regulation CF, which is limited on regulated crowdfunding portals only, and you're limited to $1,070,000 and up to $10,000 or 10% of an investor's net worth. So what's this leave us with in terms of what is general solicitation? Well, general solicitation means that you're basically shouting from the rooftops, who wants to invest with me? So general solicitation includes advertisements published in newspapers and magazines, public websites, communications broadcasted over television and radio, and seminars where attendees have been invited by general solicitation or general advertising. In addition, the use of an unrestricted and therefore publicly available website constitutes general solicitation. So anything you're seeing on the internet that says who wants to invest or is inviting somebody to invest or talking about an investment opportunity is most likely being conducted under these rules, or they might be breaking the law. And you don't want to break the law. So I like to do this thing when I'm at conferences where I show something like this, which is clearly a general solicitation. And then I ask everybody, hey, how many's seen something like this? And everybody puts their hands up. And then I say, and how many of you have invested after you've seen something like that? And you hear the whoosh of hands go down, because the part of that is that it is not effective. Putting things out on Craigslist or just blasting things on Facebook or LinkedIn without any real marketing ahead of time or getting people familiar with who you are is just not effective. Now, and it's also not legal if you're not operating under 506C or Regulation A or Reg CF. As a matter of fact, Reg CF is actually limited to the crowdfunding portal for advertising. So it's even a little more limited on the general solicitation. Now here we're taking a look at CrowdStreet, and this is a advertisement, an email from CrowdStreet. I signed up for their mailing list and they sent this. Now, why is this different than what was previously shown? Well, first off, I signed up for CrowdStreet, which just goes to show the importance of having a really good newsletter and a really good mailing list and making sure you develop your mailing list. So that's kind of a hint as to what I'm going to be talking about next, is that you really want to make sure that you have a well-developed mailing list for your potential investors. And you should be developing that mailing list right now. So here, CrowdStreet is offering a property and also saying like, look, here's all the information. But not only that, we're going to be doing a webinar so you can see more information on this property. Again, these are hot leads to them. These are people who signed up for their mailing list. And the other thing you should know is that those are offered pursuant to 506C, meaning that anybody who's on that mailing list doesn't necessarily have to be an accredited investor, but anybody who invests in those particular deals must be accredited. So they're operating under 506C. But I actually prefer Rule 506B. And truth be told, most issuers prefer 506B as well. 506B requires you to have a pre-existing relationship with your investors. And so here we see Faith Hill and Tim McGraw and their pre-existing relationship. Now, do you have to have a relationship like them? No. What you need to have is a substantive knowledge of one's financial ability to invest. So why do I like 506B better? Well, two reasons. Statistics don't lie. Statistically speaking, since 506C has been allowed, which was about, I think, 2014, 506C is the one where we can advertise and we can only take accredited investors. Since 506C was allowed, actually 84% of all issuers have continued to use 506B instead. And the reason why I like it better is because it does require that pre-existing relationship, which means that it's people who already know, like, and trust you, that you've developed a relationship with. And those are always the best investor relationships. So how do you create a pre-existing relationship with a potential investor? Is you can use this thing called an investor qualification form. And the investor qualification form will ask some very simple questions of your potential investor about their investing experience and their net worth and their income, to be sure that they are actually qualified to invest in anything that you might put forth to them. Make sure that they're sufficiently sophisticated to invest in your deal. Where are you? And what happens when you don't have a pre-existing relationship? Well, here we have a poor person who, went out and did one of those seminars and generally solicited, and they solicited investors to invest in promissory notes, which were to be secured by real estate. Respondents advertised the notes using several different media, including newspaper, radio, and seminars. This compared them to certificates of deposit. Advertisements used by respondents also represented that the notes were guaranteed, low risk, safe, and secure. Oof, I hate those words, and I'm going to talk about it in a second. And they were hereby ordered to cease and desist. You don't want this happening to you. Oops, sorry. You don't want this happening to you. So what you really want to be careful of is to make sure that if you're going to do an offering pursuant to 506B, you're very careful with the way you advertise, and you're also careful with your languaging, no matter what kind of offering you're doing, because those words, guaranteed, low risk, safe, and secure, are words you should just never, ever, ever be using. Please never use those words. When we're dealing in real estate, particularly private real estate securities, those words of low risk, guaranteed, safe, and secure are just simply not true in the eyes of the SEC and the law. First of all, I'll talk about guaranteed. You guys can't guarantee anything. You know that. The only two guarantees are death and taxes. And low risk, although we're all among friends and we all love real estate and we all invest in real estate, the reality is that there is no low risk in private real estate securities. Low risks are CDs. Low risk may be mutual funds. Low risk are, money markets. You're not making a lot of money with them, but they are low risk. So here is an example of advertising under 506C. As you can see at the bottom, it says accredited investors only. But let me tell you what's wrong with this advertising. It doesn't give you any why. It starts off with returns, preferred returns plus 60% equity profit, if any. For those of you that are in the Society of Exchange Counselors, you know, and I know that a lot of times it's about the why. It's not about the returns. So why are we doing this deal? Is never the answer, is never the returns. The why is always something else. Like there is an amazing opportunity in this particular market because of these reasons. And the reasons might be something like, Amazon's moving in here or Tesla's moving here. Like Reno has this huge boom right now because Tesla moved or is planning to move over there. So there's a lot of real estate happening there right now. As a matter of fact, the very first event I went for the Society of Exchange Counselors was held in Reno. It's ironic that I mentioned that marketplace. So the why is not the returns. The returns are implied. The why is what you are, why you're doing the deal. There's got to be something that makes those returns happen. Okay, so what do you owe your investors under these laws? Again, if you're doing a 506B, you want to provide them with an investor questionnaire. You also want to provide them with a private placement memorandum, which tells them what the deal is all about. You can provide them with the operating agreement, bylaws, promissory note, depending on what you're selling them. Most of you are going to be using an operating agreement because most real estate deals that I see are in an LLC. In certain circumstances, we might see a limited partnership. But most of the time we're going to be using an LLC. Any supporting documentation that the investor would want to see, a subscription agreement, which glues the whole thing together, where the investor says, yes, I've read all of these documents and I understand them and I'm entering into this agreement. And finally, the Form D, which gets filed with the SEC in the state saying that you're using this exemption from registration. So what do I want you to know when you're about to go out and start a deal? The first thing I want you to do is I want you to know your role. The thing is, what I see the mistake of a lot of real estate entrepreneurs is they think they're like a shiny unicorn. And most of the time they're not shiny unicorns. They're not the next, again, I'll mention Tesla. They're not the next, you know, hot electric car or, you know, new technology or something incredibly innovative. It's real estate. It's steady. It's reliable. And those are the strengths of real estate. They're not weaknesses, but you have to know this going into it so you know what you're selling and why you're selling it. And that's why your why is so important, because it's the good story that's really going to get the investors in. Real estate's not the next big thing. And there's a multitude of profitable opportunities. The reality is it's just, you got to find the right one for you. I personally invest in all kinds of different real estate, but I do find that multifamily is the most reliable. Everybody needs to live somewhere. The second thing I want you to remember, so now that you know what your role is, I want you to know what your investors' role are. And I use this picture of Garfield's because I think it really actually tells the true story of investors, which is that they're not putting their sweat equity into the deal. They're literally writing a check, and they might have worked really hard for that money. And you must respect that. You absolutely must respect that. But you also need to respect your time, which is something you can never get back, and the time that you're spending on doing this deal. So I want you to understand what your investor's role is that not all investors are created equal, but all money is green. And so you need to find the right investors for your deal, and ones that are not going to just run you roughshod or run roughshod over you, because there's just no reason to do that. There's investor and investor money everywhere. So we have 4 different structures we can take a look at in terms of what we offer our investors. The first one on the left-hand side, we can take in an equity split. We offer our investors a equity split where we work out our numbers to figure out what the investors get and what we can get in return. The second one is preferred only, where it's just a stated return. The investor expects no more, no less than whatever it is that you state. This third one is no distributions. Now, we're going to see this model. You probably don't see that model a lot right now, but we're going to see an uptick on this model. I guarantee it. And why is that? Because we're about to go into a downturn. If you watch a video that Charlie and I did with Harry Dent, who's a famous economist, you will see in there how he talks about that you need to sell all your stock right now and get ready to get into multifamily and get ready to get into assisted living facilities, because there is going to be this amazing opportunity to get into these properties at a really low rate. And the thing is that why you might not see a no distributions model is because there's going to be a distressed market where people are going to be looking for these distressed deals, investing in those distressed deals, getting rid of those distressed deals, and flipping, churning, or also taking any distributions and just buying more and more properties, because you don't want idle cash when a good downturn comes, and one is coming. The fourth thing is a waterfall, which is a hybrid of the equity split and the preferred return. And we can take a look at that in the next couple of screens here. So how do you do this? First, you're going to start with the returns on the deal or the target returns on the fund. So depending on whether you're doing a syndication where you're just buying one property, or you're doing a fund where you intend to buy lots of properties. So what we're really talking about right now is how do you figure out what are the returns that you offer to your investors. So the first thing you want to do, start with the returns on the deal or target returns on the fund. And then you got to figure out what you want. So many syndicators and fund managers make the huge mistake of thinking, well, I have to offer this amount to my investors. And that's so not true. You dictate what the investors are going to get paid, not what your investors don't dictate to you what they want. It just doesn't work that way. If we let things work that way, I'm going to sneeze. Okay, pass. So you want to figure out what you want first, because again, you're trading time for money and you need to know what your time is worth. Do not discount what your time is worth so that you can give your investors that 1% more on their money. Because I'm going to tell you at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. The 1% more is just not going to make much of a difference. Again, investors don't start with returns. Everybody thinks investors start with returns. They don't. They start with the why. And then you're going to tell them the what, and then you're going to tell them the how. The returns are so secondary to all of those things. So you want to figure out what the returns are going to be on the deal, then what you want, then you're going to work a contingency in there. Once you do the math on this, that's what you can offer. And this is what it looks like. So you're going to take an overall return, subtract out your return, subtract out your contingency, and what you can then offer is whatever's left over. And then you can work this into any one of our structures. Now, there's other ways you can get paid as a syndicator or fund manager. And I strongly suggest that you work these into the returns that you're receiving as well, because all of these things that are here take effort. So when you go to acquire a property, there is a lot of due diligence and effort put into that, and you need to get paid for that. So you can take an acquisition fee of, generally speaking, between 1% and 3% of the purchase price. Then when you go to sell the property, there's also a lot of effort in that. So you can take a disposition fee of 1% to 3% of the sales price of the property. Then there's also an asset management fee. And we're generally seeing, again, 1% to 3% of the gross income of the property as an asset management fee. This is separate from the property management. This is managing basically the property manager. So the very first job I had in real estate was years ago. It was during the last boom, like 2004, 2005. And I was in charge of all the money. Like, I was in charge of getting the equity paperwork together, and then also getting the debt on the property. And then sometimes I would have to do a refinance. And those times where I was dealing with the bank and getting the bank everything that they needed were some of the most stressful times, because it was just so much work, and the bank always seemed to want something else and something else and something else. So one thing I want you working into all of your deals is the refinance fee, which is, generally speaking, 1% to 2% of the total amount of the loan. And then if you're going to do any construction on the property, you're going to also want to consider a construction management fee, which is about, can be, I see this done different ways, but what I generally see is 10% of the total construction costs of the project. And then finally, the other way you're going to get paid, and probably the most obvious way you're going to get paid, is through your equity or profit interest. So one of the things I mentioned on how you could do this is through an equity split. And I've interviewed a couple of really big, like, fund managers, fund-to-fund managers. And what a fund-to-fund is basically somebody who is a fund manager who only goes out and looks to invest in other people's funds or other people's syndications. And I asked a crew of them, hey, what are you looking for? And overall, the commentary I got was that it should be no more than 50-50 and no less than 80-20. And the 50-50 is 50 to the investors, 50 to you, and the 80-20 is 80 to the investors and 20 to you. Believe it or not, investors want to see you get paid. They want you to be sufficiently motivated to continue working on the deal. So this is really actually important. So how do we get into this? We work backwards. We use the original formula I had 2 slides ago. If you really just want to be able to say to your investors, hey, look, you're going to get 8% and that's it, you can just use what's called a preferred return and just do preferred only. Stated return, get paid after fees, but before your interest. And most of your interest in this situation would be tied up in the profits after the preferred. Again, I talked about no distributions where you're just going to let it ride. You're going to reinvest the capital so that you can take advantage of the down market. And the most typical thing we're seeing right now is a waterfall, which is a hybrid of the preferred and the equity split. But you can do this in a couple of different ways where you have an inclusive return, an exclusive return, or a cap. Let me see if I have, yep, here we do. I have a slide to talk about what that means, where we have an inclusive return, exclusive return is the one there on the top. 7% preferred return to the Class A interest, meaning they get their return first. Thereafter, 50% to the Class A members and 50% of the Class B members. So this is where the Class A or your investors would make more money. In the second bullet point there, we have 7% preferred return to the Class A interests. Thereafter, 50% to the Class A members and 50% to the Class B members, inclusive of preferred returns. In other words, the Class A members get 7 and the B catches up with them to a certain extent. And then they split everything thereafter. So this is actually a better deal for the B members. The first one was a better deal for the A members. And then the third one is 7% preferred return to the Class A interest or 50% of the total distributions, whichever is greater. And this is that cap situation. So that they're basically limited to 7% preferred return. So here's the quick and dirty math of it. That first one I had said the Class A had a better deal going, and sure enough, here they do. They get 10%. I have these backwards, excuse me. So inclusive, which was the second bullet point, first 7% to the Class A members, then the Class B catches up 7%, and the rest is split 50-50. And then exclusive, 7% to the Class A, then Class B and Class A split the remaining 50-50, which will have the Class A end up with more than the Class B at 13.5 and 6.5% to the Class B. So that's all I have on that one. But getting investors in, I have one little sentence here: have a killer. You have to have a killer before, during, and after process for your investors. There is so much competition and so much noise out there that you have to be above and beyond. And we're going to talk about a couple of different ways to do that. Now, I've kind of alluded to this already. And the first thing I really want you to do is I want you to have a killer newsletter. I want you to have killer content. This is the most important thing. Remember, I talked about how I really prefer that you have a 506B and have a pre-existing relationship with your investors. And what I really want you to do is I'm gonna pull up some samples here. What I really want you to do is I want you to have content that's both text and video. How can you do this? Well, it's real simple. Anything you've learned during this seminar, you should just take little notes on and then do little videos on what you learned. This is going to be key for your investors to understand who you are and what you're doing and what you're all about. It is really going to help them understand that you are a multifamily, or you don't have to be a multifamily investor. Obviously, we're talking about multifamily here, but it's really going to help them understand who you are and what kind of entrepreneur you are. All right, so I'm going to swap this here real quick. And let me just share this real fast. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to start adding value now. What you need to do, again, is just take anything you've learned and start writing it down, making little videos and adding things for content for your newsletter. And you're gonna have a newsletter. You have to have a newsletter, especially in this day and age of COVID-19, where, you know, we're not as social with each other in person. You're really gonna have to start being able to develop digital relationships. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you shine and give the best content. So start adding value now. Tell people what you've learned. Give them the opportunity give yourself the opportunity to show them that you're an expert, and give them the opportunity to learn something. Number two, participate. The thing is anytime you see like one of these meetups online for real estate investing, or just meetups in general, or, you know, Zoom happy hours, anything like that, I want you to consider participating in those things. Other things that you can be participating on are, you know, online charity events. Charities are really suffering right now, and it's always nice to be involved in an online charity event. To show your support, but not only that, for the networking opportunities, because people who are on those online charity events, generally speaking, have some kind of disposable income. So this is a great way to start meeting investors as well. Another thing you want to participate in is participate in any kind of discussions online where you can add value as well. This is, again, goes back to adding value and making yourself familiar. So if anybody asks a question about real estate and you happen to have something to add to that discussion, so long as it's valuable, participate in that. The third thing I want you to do is I want you to educate. I want you to go out and, again, participate on online discussions, do webinars, start getting into doing webinars. Those are really helpful. They don't have to be long. They can be incredibly short, as a matter of fact. But we want you to start educating people about you and your company. And the only way you're going to be able to achieve this is if you have a nice website. Remember, this is all the before stuff. This is how we get investors through the door. We get them interested. We start building channels in their brains to let them know about who you are and what you do. So you want to educate your investors so that they know what it is that they're getting into and about who you are and what your company is all about. Okay, so for those of you that are finding this all overwhelming, you saw Charlie talk and then, you know, and tell you about all these ways to go and find properties, and you're thinking, oh my God, that's overwhelming. And now you're telling me I have to go out and raise money. Well, why don't you divide and conquer? Go out and find a partner that has the same value system as you do, the same thought process in terms of asset classes, the same thought process in terms of who you'll get in as investors, and in the same process as to what your marketing message will be. And finally, I want you to infiltrate. So you can take all of this information now and go infiltrate other places. So a lot of times people stick to like the real estate investing groups because they think those are the only real estate investors out there. But as I've said many times before, there's only two types of people in this world: those who are in real estate and those who want to be in real estate. So it's your job to go out and find those people who want to be in real estate. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's actually not that hard to go out and find these individuals. What you really want to do is you want to go to find places where doctors are hanging out online, places where other professionals are hanging out online, lawyers, boat enthusiasts, car enthusiasts, anybody who might be into something that's like a hobby of yours, even comic book people. Comic book collecting actually can be a very expensive hobby. And so we want to kind of look at those people as well and say, hey, do you want to get into another type of investing? Comic book enthusiasts, and I don't mean to be dwelling on them, but these people are collectors, they're investors. So why don't you show them now how to invest in real estate? Doctors are very busy. They don't have time to invest their money. Why don't you show them how you can help them invest their money? And this is all about building your list again and creating a newsletter that is engaging and thoughtful and helpful to the end reader. So many newsletters are out there that are just sheer advertisements, and that's not helpful. I have this great video that I did with a guy named Ken Cragen, who actually was the founder of Hands Across America and We Are the World. He started that. He was the producer for all of that, managed Lionel Richie, and he managed Kenny Rogers. He was responsible for their careers. And one thing he taught me was that, that getting people in the door, getting people interested, you have to hit them 3 times with something that is wow to them. And that's what I want for you in your newsletter when you start creating it, is that you're educating and you're providing this valuable information while also marketing your business in a oh so subtle way. And you can create useful things, funny things, entertaining things, something that invokes emotion in those newsletters. But if you're walking away with anything today about how to raise private capital, it's implementing all 5 of these things into one foundation, which is your newsletter, and then getting email addresses to get that information out to them. And then you can repost that newsletter all over the site, on your website, all over the place, on your website, on your Facebook, on your LinkedIn. You can create little videos from it. You can use the same information and get it out there in many different ways so that you can build this marketing machine for raising private capital. And by the way, not one time here have I mentioned to go out and advertise your securities. You don't need to do that. It will all come very naturally, and people will start asking you if they can invest with you once you start doing this the right way. I swear to God that will happen. All right. So I want to talk to you about your business real quick. And Charlie, if you're there, I want to invite you back. So I want to talk to you about what's been going on in your business. Did COVID-19 shine a light on your business? It certainly shined a light on mine. It just made me feel like, oh my gosh, I have to have more passive investments. I have to have regular cash flow coming in, because what if something like COVID-19 happens again and business, my regular day-to-day business, shuts down? Well, that would be awful. But fortunately for me, at the very beginning of COVID-19, my employees were very concerned, and they saw that we weren't getting as much business. And I said, don't be, I just won't take a paycheck. And I wasn't worried for me or my family because I had income coming in from my real estate investments. So did you get a little bit scared? Did you start thinking I need to do more? Maybe these were some of the things you thought. I need more passive income. I need more regular income. I cannot be tied to a job. I need more money. I want to be able to send my kids to college. I know Charlie recently sent a lot of children to college and it was very expensive. I want to go on vacations to wherever, whenever I want. I need multiple streams of income, and I want to be able to give freely. That's a huge one for me.
You know, Jillian, after this COVID thing, when the kids came back, I actually thought about sending them to any college that would take them, and I would pay just to get back to being an empty nest. Unreal.
So, but maybe in the past when you've been investing in real estate, and I know some of you who are like really big experts in investing in real estate, so I'm talking to you, but I'm also not talking to you at the same time, because maybe some of you out there lack the confidence to really get that big deal. Or maybe some of you that are really experienced in investing in real estate haven't taken that big class A property you always wanted to take on. Maybe you bought a bad deal before, maybe you've lacked capital, or maybe you've made a bad investment. So here's the thing. As a lawyer, I can only do 2 things. I can give you legal advice and I can provide you with legal documents. And I realized, Charlie actually brought this to my attention, that I am so much more valuable as an advisor. And personally, I've invested in all kinds of real estate. I've invested in multifamily. I've invested in mobile home parks. I've invested in very little land, but single family flips. You know, in the last downturn, I made quite a bit of money on single family flips. And then I've also invested in self-storage and office. Oh, don't ask me about office right now, because nothing's going on office, unfortunately. And one thing I invested in the last downturn was a lot of notes. And that was great. And they all paid cash flow at the right time. And even hotels I've invested in. But the one thing at the end of the day that I found is that multifamily is the most steady investment. It is the one thing that I've realized people have to live somewhere at all times. Like there's never a point in time where somebody can say, well, I don't need to live anywhere. People need to live somewhere. But what we've learned is that people don't need to office somewhere. People don't need to go on vacation, things like that. So So Charlie and I have started building this community, and I'm super excited. I feel like we're in this together. And Charlie and I want to be your trusted advisors. We want to send you deals. We want to introduce you to investors, introduce you to systems that work, advise you on your offering, advise you on potential returns, advise you on marketing for investors. And if you end up joining our Chairman's Council, which we have an application for right now, but we're not actually, we're just taking applications for it right now. I'm going to tell you a different way that you can actually work with us at this moment, and then perhaps get into our coaching program, Chairman's Council, where we'll invest in your deals. I can't do any of those things as a lawyer. I can only do them as a trusted advisor. And will you still need a lawyer to do money raising or maybe even to close on a property in certain states? Yes. But think of how prepared you'll be once you get to the lawyer if you work with Charlie and me, and how smooth that process will be and how much less expensive your legal costs will be. That's one big thing, is that will save you on legal costs, right? One of the questions we want to answer for you are what systems are best for me. As a matter of fact, our very first course answers that question for you. And we know which systems work best for you because we've tried them all and we've seen what our clients have gone through putting systems in place, and we've been sold on systems over and over again. Is my home market really the best market for me? Maybe, maybe not. I tend to think it's best to invest in your own backyard. And if you're not going to invest in your own backyard, invest with somebody who's investing in their own backyard. So we'll talk about that. And we know there's deals everywhere, and Multifamily War Room will help you know where to look. I'm scared of, well, we're two attorneys that have seen it all. We were both in real estate during the height and the fall of the last market. I told you, I actually started in real estate in the height of the last market in 2004, and 2007 was a painful year. And right, Charlie? So, and oftentimes we hear some people who think about working with us, before they think about working with us, they go, I own 4,000 units. Why do I need you? Well, I own 4,001 units. Charlie, how many do you own?
Me, just over 1,000, but I'm on the process of selling those too. And
usually you have to.
I know. I usually have to 4,005. Yeah, 4,000. I'm not doing that today, Jill. I'm telling people that my focus now, because my market is, I'm looking to build. Building is where I want to be. So that's what we've started on. We made a couple of offers on land already. So yeah.
Oh, very good. Yep. So. But this is the thing, you're getting us as your advisor. We're going to advise you once a month. You're going to be able to, and wait till I tell you how much it costs, because you're going to be like, that's it. So you're going to get some really great value from us. I just don't have time for this. You're going to make the time. You're either going to make the time, or you're going to be a passive investor, and we'll teach you how to be a passive investor and help you find deals for you. Okay. But I like self-storage, mobile home parks, land, office buildings, single tenant rental, whatever you like. It doesn't matter. The principles are still the same. Finding deals where no one else is looking. Principles are still the same. How to do a good LOI. Principles are still the same. How to raise private capital. All the principles are the same. We have you covered. So, and
how to be protected every step of the way through the whole process. Yeah. That's the biggest thing that we do as lawyers, is we make sure you don't get screwed. That's our job.
And once a month, we're going to go over all of the things you see here on the screen. I'm not going to read every single thing for you, but if you want to know how to find private investors, we'll go through that with you once a month. We'll tell you what your offer should look like. We'll figure out why you should be your own private property manager, and how to maximize your investor relationships. These are the things we're going to be talking about on a monthly basis. This is one of Charlie's and my mutual clients. Had started off just, running in 17 17 directions, and Charlie pinned him down and said, hey, Francisco.
I was like Sharon Moonstruck, snap out of it. That's what I was. Come on, Frank.
Yeah, and since then, we're Crowdfunding Lawyers, my law firm, where I was practicing law for so many years. He came to us, and he's now on his 4th deal of multifamily. He got it all together. I'm just going to go through this real quick. I don't want to, spend all your time, but these are just some of my incredible clients that I've worked with, and maybe you recognize some of them. This guy back here is Tarek El Moussa from from Flipper Flop. Let's see, who else? Fan Merrill. Fan Merrill is from Flipper Flop, or I can't remember. Flip This House. All those flipping shows.
Yeah.
But Anthony Char, big, huge multifamily investor. Kathy Fetke. Grant Cardone, you guys may have heard of him. He's one of my bigger clients. But to be honest with you guys, they're no different than any of you. These all may be somewhat famous people in their own right, but they're no different than you. They all started somewhere, and we want to help you start somewhere, or even take on you in the middle of, the next big deal that you're going to do. We want to help you with that. And maybe you can do it better next time with our assistance, or with more money with our assistance. And we just want you to imagine what it would be like to own so many properties that you don't have to worry about where your next paycheck is coming. So one of the special bonuses we're going to give you for joining our executive council is our 3-day event. That is included with your subscription, and there's a ton of great content in there. We have some huge speakers in there. Harry Dent did a big talk on why it's now time to invest in multifamily. He's going to tell you exactly what to do in terms of your own portfolio, and how and when to act, and why you want to act. My friend Jeff Holst, also a recovering attorney, he talks about how he had leukemia, hit rock bottom, and came out of bankruptcy and became a multifamily investor, and now just collects checks every month on his multifamily deals. And then we want your mind to be totally changed on what wealth generation looks like. So we've also included Dr. Tony Pinnells, who's a medical doctor and became financially free at 27 because he cracked the code to generational wealth building. And he's going to talk exactly why that's so important for you and your family. We also have special speaker David Gross. I know that Charlie says, hey, don't invest in C-class properties, but your mind might be changed after you hear David Gross. Charlie.
No, this guy's amazing. He doesn't just invest in the property; he invests in the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
He doesn't buy a C-class property in an A neighborhood. He buys a C-class neighborhood and makes it an A neighborhood. And he makes everyone part of the equation. It is fascinating.
It's absolutely fascinating. I hope you guys will check that speech out. So here's what you're getting with it. This is exactly what you're getting. You're getting a monthly program with online education and resources, sample documents, sample LOI, sample PPM, sample operating agreement. We're going to give you the resources you need, step-by-step approach on how to build your multifamily business and how to raise money for that multifamily business. New material every single month to help you on your multifamily journey. Once a month, we're going to mastermind with you and the other executive council program members so that you can kind of get your problem solved right there in that monthly meeting. We're even going to have special guests. It's $297 per month, and there's no long-term contract. You get to check out that entire event. That event was sold for $997, and you get to see all of those recordings as part of the bonus, as part of joining executive council. And Chuck, I went 1 minute over. I'm sorry. I tried to talk fast.
That was pretty good, Jillian.
Oh, I should probably tell everybody where to go sign up. You can go. We actually have a special website for you guys. Just go to multifamilywarroom.com/Chuck.
That's funny.
Well, I aim to please.
Yeah. Why don't you give that website again while I'm trying to figure out how to come up?
Multifamilywarroom.com/Chuck.
Awesome. I can't seem to come online here. Oh, here it is right here. Never mind. So here we are. So thank you, Charles, and thank you, Jillian. I am so blown away by what just the value of the information you offered. And just by itself is worth thousands of dollars. And then the opportunity to get on a monthly basis working with you all and learning from you all is just out of this sight. Out of sight. Out of this site. It's out of that site.
Oh, that means so much. Thank you so much, Chuck. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we're super excited. Charlie and I spent the entire summit building this program out and getting all of the templates and everything that everybody needs and presentations and everything. I'm super proud of it. I just feel like all my years in real estate are finally coming into one location.
It took me 72 years to get there, but Jillian's finally figured it out when she's 41. You know, that's nice.
Yeah. Welcome, Linda Kane.
Hi, that was fabulous, you guys. Every time I hear you talk, it's like, I need the next chapter. I need the next chapter.
I'm so glad you feel that way. I was talking so fast. I felt terrible. I was talking so fast. So hopefully I will get a lot of people on the executive council and I can slow it down.
So much, such a wealth of information. I think Charles has like 1,000+ videos in there. So
Oh my gosh, yeah.
there's so many. Yeah.
It's cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you all for being here.
All right. Thanks, Chuck.
We'll look
Thank you for
forward
having
to
us, Chuck. Look forward to the conference.
thank you. I'm looking forward to working with you all.
Awesome. We'll be in touch, Chuck, and we'll give you access to executive council as well, so you can just see what's going on back there.
Awesome. And